Now, sorry, yelling at everybody. Forgot we got a new sound system in here.
You woke them up.
It's now 6:31 p.m. Oh, recording. All right. I'd like to call to order the Fenton Township Board meeting on this 20th day of June, 2023. I ask everyone to please stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Gopal, will you lead us?
Yes, sir, thank you. Lord, we're meeting here tonight to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon these activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. And as always, we thank you for being the source of our guidance tonight. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Mark. Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Lorraine,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Kotrick,
Here.
Kruger's present, Kessler,
Here.
Gopal,
Here.
Tucker.
Present.
You have a full board present.
Thank you, Tom. All right, I'd like to note for the record that Township Attorney Jack Belzer, Operations Manager Tom Broker, our Zoning Administrator Mike Dean, our Fire Chief Ryan Volz, our Township Assessor Julia Wilson, and our Township Engineers are all present this evening, Alan and Melissa Lawrence from Lawrence Engineering. All right, Tom, will you detail the procedures? Wait a second. Yes, we do have someone for those attending tonight's virtual meeting.
To members of the public attending tonight's meeting in person or via Zoom, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded to be shown on public access television, Spectrum Channel 191. Recorded meetings are also posted on the Fenton Area Community Television YouTube channel. For those attending via Zoom, we ask that you keep your microphone muted until we reach portions of the meeting where public comment is allowed. For tonight's meeting, there are no public hearings, therefore all public comment will be taken near the end of the meeting. Meeting materials are available for download on the Township's website at fentontownship.org.
Thanks, Tom. All right, moving on to the first business order is approval of the agenda. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Krug votes yes. Kotrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Gopal,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, agenda stands approved as presented. Tonight we have a presentation from Fenton Moran. It is for our audited township financial report for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022. And we have Pam Hill here from Fenton Moran.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. We're going to cover the results of the audit as been stated for your last fiscal year, so 2022. You should have included in your packets, I see up on screen is the graph presentation, so that's what I'll plan to cover tonight at a high level. You should also have in your packets, though, a full financial statements and then also a letter to the Board of Trustees as well. So just a brief overview. We did spend over 300 hours this year auditing the books and records of the township. So as you can imagine, that's not only time from our staff, but your team to get ready for the audit as well. So I just wanted to be sure to recognize all the hard work by Tom and his entire team, as I know we deal with almost everybody here at the township during the process, and a special thanks to the 3 full-time elected officials as well. I know you guys are a very critical part of the audit process, so we appreciate all your guidance and input throughout the process as well. The main point tonight is to let you know that you did receive an unmodified opinion in the financial statement, so it's the highest level of assurance you can receive from your auditors. Basically meaning the numbers we're about to go over you can rely on, and they're good. So with that, I think we'll start with the graph presentation. This is just going to cover some high-level general fund revenues, and it looks at a 5-year trend. So you can see that revenues have consistently been increasing every year. The most notable increase I want to point out is probably that largest portion in the middle, and that is your state sources. So that did increase this year by about $400,000, so for really 2 reasons. So that's your state shared revenue, the amount of money that you collect from the state. And the increase was partially because the increase in population, and then also you had a one-time catch-up payment for the 2020 census. So a small piece of that is really just a one-time revenue, so we would expect to see that go down just a little bit next year. But overall, great news. With the increase in population from the census, your payments will be a little bit more going forward. So that's some good news. All your other revenue sources really remained pretty consistent. Nothing really major here to report. I think that the largest fluctuation was your state sources, again, which make up over 50% of your total revenue. Wanted to point out property tax revenue is really only 23% of the township's total revenue. So I know a lot of times residents come in and they pay you their property tax bill, they think it all goes to you, but most of it goes to the schools and the county and everyone else, and just kind of that little piece is what goes to the township. All right, next slide is general fund expenditures. And again, this is another 5-year trend, so the bar all the way to the right would be 2022. So you ended your year with about $3.2 million total expenditures in the general fund. And really, you'll see that increase over last year. That increase is really due to some road projects that happened this year. So not something that you're going to see necessarily every year. They were more in the current year than they were in last year. So that's why you see that increase. Again, otherwise, the township's done a really good job of really holding tight the expenses and watching those expenses coming in on budget. And you'll notice that none of the other line items really fluctuated significantly over the last several years. Which leads us into the next slide and kind of shows the results of increased revenues and really maintaining a tight budget on your expenses. You'll see that the annual expenses is the bar on the left, so kind of that teal color, maybe you want to call it. And then the column in the middle is your unassigned fund balance, so that's your available funds. Then the column on your right is your restricted fund balance. So really every year when we're here, we're talking a little bit about the fiscal health of the township. How did the township's fund balance end up at the end of the year? As you know, your fund balance is kind of your cumulative savings over life of the township, a very long time, right? So you ended the year actually in a very healthy, stable position at about $4.4 million of fund balance. And so, what this means, I think, for a community such as Fenton Township that is continuing to grow, it's really positioning you nicely to be able to fund some of the projects that you're going to need to grow, right? So by being able to watch expenses, have some increases in your revenue, you're really able to increase that fund balance and kind of save up for some of these projects and things you'll need for growth. So you can see, over the last 5 years, you've really done a great job at improving that fund balance percentage. And kind of leading into that, the next slide and last slide just talks a little bit about your retiree health care liability, which is pretty much nothing. So I think that's something, honestly, I know we've talked about a lot, but that's really something I think the township should be very proud of. You've done a great job of controlling the costs, negotiating the plan, and then also setting money aside to fund these liabilities that you have promised to pay. So, you're almost 100% funded. That's going to fluctuate up and down every year based on the market, but really very, very strong funding status for your retiree health care plan. So again, a lot of communities are kind of in the position where they're having to figure out how to pay for these legacy costs that they've promised. You've already been doing that, and again, just positions you even better to be able to focus on the future versus how you're going to pay for things you promised in the past. So that was actually my last slide. So I don't know, does anyone have any questions on the slides or the numbers at all?
Thank you, Pam. Yes. Any comments or questions from the board?
Mr. Supervisor,
Yes.
as everybody knows, I have been doing this for a lot of years, a lot of different municipalities.
this board's done a great job with these numbers.
Thank you.
I mean, it's not accounting numbers, it's good work here. I mean, I can say that, seeing a lot of these around the town. Yeah.
Other examples.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jack, I appreciate that, really do. Pam, thank you much for a great, and I know you and your team were here for about a full week, I think, or longer. So,
Yep.
And it's great working with you, and I know that the team enjoys working with you, so thank you very much. It's great to work with Plant Moran and your team.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all so much. We appreciate it.
Pam, is 300 hours a normal amount of time to?
Yeah, that's usually about what we run for the township. We didn't have, there was a new accounting standard that was implemented this year that we worked with Tom on. So we did have a little bit of extra time related to that, and then some kind of, as you continue to grow, you continue to enter into agreements that are maybe a little bit more complex, different special assessments. All of those things come with some more complications to the audit process and to Tom and his team and working through those. But we really have a great working relationship where we talk all throughout the year. So when something odd comes up, Tom's saying, here's the agreement, let's look at that, let's make sure we get it right, initially. And so I think that definitely helps for the audit to be as efficient as possible. Yep.
Again, thank you, Pam.
Yeah, thank you all so
Truly
much.
appreciate it.
Thank
Pam,
you.
a quick question.
Sure.
Do we invoice you or Platt Moran for you being allowed to use our new facility?
I don't know. I
Get
have to
back
think
to
about
me.
that. All right, that sounds
Okay,
good, Bob.
thanks, Pam.
Take care. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. All right, moving on to the next business orders, meeting minutes, including the packet of the meeting minutes from our June 6th regular meeting. Are there any corrections or requested revisions to the meeting minutes? Hearing none, the meeting minutes stand approved as presented. All right, moving on to expenditures. Are there any questions from the board regarding any of the invoices? All right, no questions? All right, a motion is in order to approve the expenditures totaling $240,850.90 per payment.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Reed,
Yes.
Gopel, Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
I vote yes. Kotrick,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, expenditures stand approved as presented. Moving on to public hearings, none. Reports, are there any committee reports to be made to the board this evening? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to communications, none. Moving on to the next business order is the adoption of ordinances. We have rezoning number R23-003, Vicinity Gardens, parcel 06-33-400-030, and 06-33-400-031, and 06-33-400-034, and 06-33-400-035, and lastly 06-33-400-036. Amendment to PUD conditions. This is the second reading and the vote on the adoption. Again, this is the second reading of the proposed zoning ordinance amendment to revise the PUD conditions for Vicinity Gardens Complex, which was introduced at the June 6th meeting. Our zoning administrator is here to answer any questions. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I need a motion to adopt amendment to zoning ordinance number 594 to revise the PUD conditions for parcels 06-33-400-030, 031, 034, 035, and 036 as presented.
I'll make the motion, but I wanted to ask Chief something before we got there, if that's okay. I asked this last meeting, but I want to hear it from the horse's mouth since you're sitting here. You've looked at access, the 10-foot is satisfactory to you to get your equipment where you need it to get?
This was the way that was designed to meet, when we went through all reviews, and everything was,
I thought it was the case, looking at the other access, it looked like it was okay to me, but I don't drive fire trucks very often, so I wanted to make sure you were good with it. Okay. So yeah, I will make the motion.
All right.
I'll support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Kotrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
I vote yes. Gopel?
Yes.
Tucker?
Yes.
Lorraine?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Steve, you
All
were
set.
brilliant.
Steve, you're all set.
You were brilliant at both meetings, Steve, I gotta tell you. You gonna leave now after that?
See you. See you later. All right, next under adoption of ordinances, proposed zoning ordinance amendment, solar energy systems. This is again the second reading and the vote on the adoption. Being the second reading of a proposed zoning ordinance amendment to add provisions relating to solar energy systems. It was introduced at our June 6th meeting. Again, we have our zoning administrator, Deem, here to answer any questions. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Tucker?
I think I said it last time, I don't know this will be the end place where we will end up with this ordinance, but I think we need something in place soon, because this is something that's happening, and if you look around us, this issue's coming up a lot of different places, so I don't have anything that I think is wrong with this. I'm just making us aware that we write in sandstone, not in granite, so if there's something that doesn't turn out quite the way we intended, unintended consequences, we have the ability to fix it, but I think moving forward now is the right answer.
I was glad that we dealt with it too, and that residential is treated differently and made pretty streamlined.
Yeah, Mike actually did a good job. I don't know how much of the stuff he stole, but, you know, it's...
Myself.
From yourself?
Yes.
Oh, would you present on this or something?
So when I was a consultant, which is an ordinance I worked on.
Well, we'll check with detective. I don't think stealing from yourself is really stealing, is it? Maybe? All right. We'll book him later. Or Jack needs to stay out of this one.
Well, not to mention that attorneys, what we call research, is really just plagiarism.
Now it's AI.
Yeah, no, it's a,
Jack goes to Italy several times a year to research law.
Right,
He
exactly.
does.
all right, is there any other comments or questions? Hearing none? Okay, I need a motion to adopt an amendment to zoning ordinance number 594 to add provisions relating to solar energy systems as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Gopel?
Yes.
Tucker?
Yes.
Lorraine?
Yes.
Cotrick?
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed?
Yes.
Kessler?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under adoption of ordinance, this is the proposed fire code ordinance. This is the introduction and the first reading. This is a proposed ordinance to adopt the most recent version of the International Fire Code. Chief Bolts, do you want to come up and give a brief description or explanation?
Well, we actually skipped the 2018 edition and are going to 21, so we didn't even adopt the 2018 edition. So there's a few things that have changed in there. Actually, Tom and I were going over some of them today, but it's pretty much cut and dry, the codes and laws that we follow for our commercial buildings, residential structures, everything that we do through the IFC to help protect our residents and our citizens. So it's pretty cut and dry.
And that is the international, right, fire
The
code?
International Fire Code, which also is one of the best codes that goes along with the IBC. There's sections in there, there's probably 12 sections in both that are just, I mean, you can put them side by side, they read the same thing. And that's the construction code we also go by.
Correct. Thanks, Chief.
Yep.
All right, I will now open the meeting up for public comment on the proposed fire code ordinance. Is there any written comments, Tom?
No.
Okay. Is there anyone here in person that would like to address the board regarding the proposed fire code ordinance? Moving on to Zoom, we have a couple that have attended tonight via Zoom. Would you like to address the board on the proposed fire code ordinance? If you do, unmute your mic.
I got a no thank you from Mr. McKinney.
Okay, looks like,
Unless Mr. Lemon has something to say.
no. All right, I will now close public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the board? All right, the second reading and vote on adoption for the proposed ordinance will be conducted at our July 5th meeting. Moving on to unfinished business, none. All right, moving on to new business, resolution number 2023-20, proposed street improvement special assessment district for Haddon Street. Operations Manager Broker, will you review?
Yes, property owners on Haddon Street have submitted petitions to do a street improvement special assessment. The numbers actually changed again today, so Vince, the one you have in front of you has actually been updated. The one I loaded on all the laptops. We have 55.4% of the total frontage signing the petition, 30 out of 57 properties, which is 52.63% of the properties. The next step in the process is to conduct a public hearing on the creation of the district. So we've got a resolution to do just that, scheduling the hearing for our next meeting, which is Wednesday, July 5th.
All right, thanks, Tom. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay, resolution number 2023-20. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Yes, thank you. Tentatively declares intent to repave Haddon Street, tentatively designates the boundaries of the district to include all properties fronting on Haddon Street, schedules a public hearing and the creation of the special assessment district for July 5th board meeting, directs the clerk to mail and publish the public hearing notice according to statute, and it rescinds any conflicting resolutions. I'll move the resolution.
Second.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Kessler.
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Cottrell.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
All right, thanks, Bob. All right, moving next under new business, the Fenton Township Community Center Lakeside Structural Improvement Projects. Hopefully you've all reviewed the memo in your packet. Also, you have some pictures in front of you. I think I took 8 pictures. I did try to email them to everybody yesterday, but I didn't know, because the file was so large, I didn't know if you all received it or not. I think I got a kickback from you on the second one I sent, so.
I did get them though.
You got
Eventually I
that
got
happens
them,
to us
so,
all the time,
yeah.
or to me all the time. What happened is during the construction process of the lower level, this this improvement here, in doing a walk around, going out onto the deck and then walking around the rear of the property, it came to my attention that the retaining walls surrounding the back of our building were in bad shape, creating a safety issue for our beachgoers or anybody that would be out there. So I made a call to Alan at Lawrence Engineering, and we met out there, went over the project. He was instructed to get 3 bids, of which he did. All 3 of those bids are here. Again, I think that this isn't even a question from, or something we should think about. We have, just today there was probably at least 100 children that were out there, and when you look at the pictures, again, sent them all to you. The one I will be recommending did include landscaping that would include rubber, like playground type of mulch, rather than all of it. The landscaping would be landscaping that contains no leaves, safe to use if a kid fell in them, things like that. So there would be very minimal cleanup. So long-term mulch lasts 5 to 7 years instead of replacing it every year, trimming trees, doing all that. Everything was really taken into consideration, so once it's done, we would have less maintenance out there also. So that's about it. Is there any questions or comments from the board? Questions?
I noticed that, I guess this is probably for Ellen and Melissa, that one of the applicants was quoting Unilock blocks, which I'm familiar with, right? Unilock, kind of a standard. Yeah, yeah. And I'm familiar with that one. The one that we are looking at is using a different product that I'm not familiar with. Are they comparable products? Are we getting, is it apples to apples here?
Yeah, come on up. That'd be great.
Leave it to a lawyer to ask me hard questions. Yes, they are comparable to each other. We made sure that whenever we first got the bids in. Since then, we've gone through each one of the contractors, talked to them, made sure apples were to apples all the way through on it. This is probably the easiest one that I've ever come in front of you on. It is falling apart, period. And if you don't do something, you're going to hurt someone. It's just that simple. It is falling apart. You get a heavy rain right now, and I think that whole thing will collapse. That's how bad it is. We've got, I think you've probably got the bids in front of you. The one that was the most progressive as far as coming forward, talking to us, was the lowest bidder. Not usually the way it happens, but it did happen this way. I know that Vince met with them, talked to them out there, did a walkthrough with them. They are on top of it. I believe that they are ready to move forward on what is correct on it. And it's one of those things that you're going to have to do it. And I can't tell you when it will fall in, but I will tell you that the anchor itself, which you will understand, the anchor itself is giving. And once that starts happening, anchor is what I'm talking about, is what's behind the wall. And that is giving. And it can happen anytime. So just want to let you know that this one is dangerous.
I don't know who picked the applicants or if it was just advertising, but I, looking at doing some retaining wall myself, and all three of these companies are people that I talk to. Some of you may not have heard of Envious, but they have an excellent reputation. They're actually a local Fenton area company.
Yes.
I've had Todd's quote me stuff. They're always the high quote every single time. They do a lot of advertising. They're a good company, but their quotes are always higher than everybody else. And I'm very familiar with Atlas Outdoors, and they do great work as well. So any one of these three companies are competent to do the work. I just wanted to make sure that we were doing apples to apples, which I assumed. But I was familiar with Unilock, I was not familiar with the other.
Yeah. We went to more contractors than this. They, whenever they would come in, they weren't apple to apple. We were trying to sit down with them, get them to understand it, but even at that, the pricing was way over what your highest bid is here. I mean, right now, with the way things are working out there, and some of you know this, is that the prices are going nuts on us, you know. Sometimes you'll get them in and they're real low, sometimes you get them in and they're real high, and it doesn't make sense. The way I usually look at this, lowest bid gets kicked out, highest bid gets kicked out. Then we look at the middle ones. In this particular case, and I talked to Vince about it, I thought the lowest bidder on this was the one to go with. Not just because of the money, but because of what you were going to end up with.
Thanks, Neil. And just to, another point is when I made a single call to Envious, they sent their top rep over here. I went over the project again. It was what, I think, Tom, $2,500 higher, included no landscaping. He met with me. He had a 3-tiered wall. I was a little worried that the fall would be too far for a child if he fell, so he came back. So no wall is more than 3 feet, so any fall would be, and talking about something that would last a half a century. So he really great, and according to them, and again, it's their product or a product they use, they think it's better. So I have all the confidence in the work and the company. So.
Will we have to shut down the beach during this?
He said that he will have to rope it off in certain areas, so they won't have ingress or egress maybe up this side of steps or, you know, whatever, but they can.
They'll get one or the other.
They'll be able to have access to the beach. You know, they may have to section off part of it, but the main thing is the water.
In light of what was said, do we need to be roping it off now?
I made that comment when I was down there. A couple of us went down there. It would be my recommendation to just wrap it with orange and maybe just a stay off the wall type of sign. I think that would be smart, until they could come in here and get it done. And the bids being high, one of the things is that there's no way to get any type of heavy equipment in here. I mean, a couple of companies that looked at me and said, I'm not barging it over here, I would send you a bill that would be so large. So, and I'm sure Alan had that same issue too, because I met with two of them myself, and they said, there's just no way to bring in the materials. So, we do have a fence over here, it's being blocked by air conditioners right now, but the way that this brick is designed, they have a small enough piece of equipment that they can actually get it in and out. So that saved us a lot of money. So.
I had one question on this bid. It says current plants to be removed by the client.
Yes, three of them have already been removed because I didn't think they were, and I did talk to Tom, and it's not a big deal to have them removed.
Okay, and I wasn't sure how much needed to be removed, but I thought, do we have personnel to do that?
Yep. Ryan?
Mike's already agreed to take I think there's only 3 bushes left. The ones right out here, I think 3 of 4 or 5 have already been taken out because they were a hazard if you ask me, so. But
Okay,
again, it's
great.
been
Then
designed.
I'm not concerned about it.
Yep, and the new design, if you look at it, is it takes safety into consideration, everything from the rubber mulch, so they're not getting, splinters in their feet, to bushes that they can fall in. And there's not leaves, so we can save on future maintenance costs, things like that.
Melissa, will you volunteer to supervise the removals?
I do want to thank Alan and Melissa for helping me with this project, because I felt it was an engineering product, not something I could just meet with different companies. I think I needed an engineer to take a look at this, and Alan and Melissa did that for me. Came out here, assessed the damage, said it needed to be done, and so I want to thank you both for helping me with this project.
So no AstroTurf anywhere?
At Vince's.
Yeah, about a half mile down the road, there's a ton of it. Gee.
Aren't you glad you're the target?
Yeah, every meeting.
I'm just asking, sir.
All right.
Good question, Mark.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, I need a motion to approve, or I'm going to make the motion to approve the proposal of Envious Landscape to renovate the terrace structure on the lakeside of the Township Hall as presented.
Support.
Tucker. That's
All right, motion's been moved by myself and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Gopal,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Kotrick. Oh,
Yes.
God, I'll vote yes also.
Thank you, board.
And I'll tell you why, Bob, when we're not rolling cameras, why you're voting yes on this.
All right, next business order is board comment.
So tonight is a monumental occasion. And I'm probably not all aware of this, but I've been on the board for forever, and I'm not quitting. Don't get,
I was gonna say that.
don't start celebrating yet. So how long have we been doing electronic packets?
I'd have to look since maybe 2011.
Yeah, so like 12 years?
Yeah.
Like this? Tonight marks the very first night where the attachments weren't what they were supposed to be.
One error.
And since
That's
we've been
pretty
picking on
great.
Vince.
It's all there.
Yeah, there you go.
It's all there.
I know it is, but it's never happened in, you know,
Tom's Israel.
in 12 years, 13 years,
Yeah.
a lot of packets.
And I still haven't figured out how those bookmarks switched. I'm
They
not.
did, it's an electronic glitch, it has nothing to do with you, Tom.
Yeah.
It's all by itself.
I think it was a supervisor oversight. But,
A little micromanaging going on.
yeah.
That does happen. Oh,
I tease.
that's all right.
No.
And yet, every member of the board is so bright that none of us got tripped up by it.
Well, I don't know, there was gonna be a test.
Was it
but-
you?
No, I had nothing to do with it either.
All right, any other comments from the board? I have one. Also, during this renovation project, it became apparent that the deck, as you look out the glass, there was a temporary patch that I had the company do because it was a potential slip and fall. I also had Alan look at the structure and a couple other companies, and we have a problem. A little history, there were a couple of bathrooms down there. It's been, Tom, what, 20 years? You said since they've been used, or how long has it been?
Oh, easily.
I think they locked them up in the late 70s and they haven't used them since.
And we certainly don't want to replace them, but there is a problem with the structure. So as we've spent the money to renovate this project, or to do this project, to renovate this hall, we are certainly going to have it booked up and busy as time goes on, and we do have a problem with the deck. The deck does need to be partially redone. I would like to have it completely. We can make it cosmetic, and maybe it can happen on the short term, but I would like to take it right down to the structure, have it redone, all new cement on the top. Here's the good news, which is very unusual, especially under the circumstances, but this hall renovation project came 11% under budget, so the amount of money that I'm going to ask the board for would not even increase what you've already authorized for this renovation. So basically what you did is you gave an amount to renovate. It's going to include now redoing that whole structure outside without me asking you for any more money. So what I'm going to do today is to set forth, I'd like to set forth a motion, is to have you okay up to $25,000, which is about what we have left in this budget to completely fix the deck and the structure underneath. That would include also, when we pick the color of the brick to match this, it would also include painting that structure.
Question.
Yes?
Have we already got bids for that?
I have two companies that came out and looked at it, but I wanted to talk to the board first before we went out and got the 3 final bids.
What is the capacity of this, as far as renting this out? What's a capacity of that?
200.
200.
For Alan and Melissa and or. With the rebuild, I don't know if this is possible. I would think, because it's such a scenic view out there, if this is a capacity of 200, would we engineer this, or would it be engineered to hold theoretically maximum 200 people on that? That it would be looking, maybe the bride and groom are at the gazebo and the entire party is out on the deck watching it.
From my standpoint, the answer is yes.
Okay.
From his standpoint, fire chief,
Yes.
can I sit next to
I'm
him?
going with the engineer.
He may go against me on that.
Well, you know what I'm saying. I mean, if this is gonna be such a popular venue, which I think it will, because it's beautiful inside, beautiful view outside. And now with the outside potentially matching the inside, I can just see events actually transpiring out there, everybody in here migrating out there on there to kind of get a view of it. And I would just like to keep that in everybody's head that, I mean, we've seen balcony and decks collapse on TV all the time. I would at least like to make it fire marshal capacity rated as far as holding that.
That's why it's a good idea to move forward doing that, because we don't want to be the next one on the next one.
I'm just saying, when we rebuild this, I want it to, I mean, engineers, would it be smart to make it hold potentially 200 people capacity weight?
We put that as part of the contract and all.
Is that unreasonable?
Oh, no, not at all, not at all.
I have a related question. Is concrete the answer to that question? Have we looked at that?
I'm not understanding.
Is concrete the correct material for the job under the circumstances?
Not necessarily, there's other products out there, but it depends on how it goes onto the street. Leave that blank, they come back with different products, and then you've got a choice to look at. Concrete, whatever other product that they may come up with. That's the way we do a lot of it, because there's all kinds of things out there that you don't know about, or I don't know about. John, you do, but I don't.
No, that's why I'm asking the question. I'm glad to hear that you're leaving it open so that we can see what there is available. Because I'm guessing that's probably the right answer, but that's not my job, that's your job.
I just want us to be aware that I don't think 25,000 should be a cap if it doesn't meet the specs that we're kind of thinking about.
Yeah.
Well,
If it goes over, we'll deal, you know what I mean?
well, that's what I was gonna do, since that money has already been set aside.
Sure.
But I did meet with a couple of companies, they did have, one of them did have, he's not an engineer, but he's a structural person that looked at it. Said we got some pretty good sound, foundation that we have there. So, but until they get into it and really, again, I wanted to come to the board first to make sure that was even gonna be possible. So now that we've done that, what I'd like to do is to make a motion myself to spend up to 25,000. If the bids come in higher, then I will come back to you, because that would be extra money the board hasn't already approved. And we'll look at it. As far as materials, both companies said concrete was the way to go for the strongest structure, because Tom and I talked about maybe doing, wood decking or something like that. And this included doing like a stamped concrete on top of it would really match the beauty that we have here. So, but I will certainly work with them. Alan and Melissa will be working with whoever we choose. So again, what I'd like to do is just make a motion for the 25,000 that we have already agreed, this board's agreed to spend. And then if it comes back higher than that, then I will bring it back to the board. Unless the board wants to authorize me to spend whatever we need to fix the structure.
I think 10% over, come back to us? Is that standard?
Okay?
Give it 10% over the approved amount, is that?
Why don't I
Is that
make that
reasonable?
motion?
Yeah, that's what we do with our.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
with it.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to spend up to 25,000 plus 10% for the repair or partial replacement of the deck and its understructure.
That's 27.5 for the math.
Yeah, I was gonna say 27,500. If it comes in higher than 27,500, I will come back to the board for the difference.
I'll move it.
Second.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Lorraine,
Yes.
Kotrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Krug votes yes, Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, board. Truly appreciate it. All right, the next business order is public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. I'll now open up the meeting for public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. First, is there anyone here that has joined us tonight that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? I know there's not, so we will go to those attending via Zoom. Is there anyone attending via Zoom that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items?
There's a message, Don McKeon.
Mr. Lorraine, I'd just like to say good work on the audio.
I think he was being complimentary is what I think.
Okay.
That's what it was, yes.
Again,
Thank you, Don.
thank you, Don. Again, any other comments or anyone that would like to address the board on Zoom regarding agenda or non-agenda items? If you
Yeah,
do,
I just wanted
unmute your
to
mic
say-
and address the board. Got it? Unmute.
I am unmuted.
Unmuted as far as Zoom is concerned, but we still can't hear.
Not hearing him.
Okay,
Still not in the
not a
mark.
problem.
No, we should be.
Good from our end.
Yeah.
Let's see if Brandon can troubleshoot this.
They're checking in the back. It just should take a second.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go.
Am I there?
Yes.
You're there, Mark.
What did you?
Very good. All I wanted to say was good work on fixing the audio on the meeting. It's working.
You know what? I appreciate that because Tom and I talked about it, and I was supposed to ask somebody attending tonight via Zoom how our audio was sounding, because I know we had a couple concerns last week.
Excellent, all the way around.
Ah, great.
Good.
Thank you
Good
very
to hear.
much. I appreciate that. All right, if there's no one else that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items that is here presently or on Zoom, I will close public comment. It is now 7:15 p.m. If there's nothing else, I say good night, and the meeting is adjourned.
Jack didn't believe me for a long time. For a long time, it was good reason not.
Recording.